Good evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. For the last 2 years of his Prime Ministership, if there is one thing that Narendra Modi has been repeatedly criticised for, it has been his silence on key issues. Many times he has ignored the calls to speak out, and sometimes he has, like he did over the weekend on the cow vigilante groups and the attacks on Dalits. Perhaps the BJP has finally realised how much it could cost the party politically. But whatever the reason, the Prime Minister finally broke his silence and made a dramatic appeal. Shoot me, he said, not Dalits. But a day later, as the RSS backed him, other groups of the Sangh Parivar have not, warning of consequences in 2019. So what does one make then of the Prime Minister's appeal? And can he afford to speak only on some issues and not others, like the situation in Jammu and Kashmir? Joining us on the program tonight from the BJP's national spokesperson Sambit Patra, Sachin Pilot of the Congress Party joins us tonight, Rakesh Sinha of the RSS, Shekhar Gupta here in the studio with us, and Prashant, friend of Rohit Vemula, the Dalit scholar who committed suicide earlier this year. He's joining us. And Prashant, the reason why you're here today is that the Prime Minister made this very hard-hitting speech on Dalits, on the attacks on Dalits in Hyderabad on Sunday, which is where Rohit took his life earlier this year. What did you think of that appeal? Were you convinced by it?
The Prime Minister has said in Hyderabad that wage a war against me, not against my Dalit brothers. But at the same time, when the ministers of his own cabinet like Bandaru Dattatreya and Sushma Swaraj and V.K. Singh, who have combinedly attacked the Dalit research scholars at University of Hyderabad, Ambedkar Students Association at University of Hyderabad, and whose letters, the letters of Dattatreya, along with the letters sent by the Ministry of HRD led by Smriti Irani, which have combinedly led for the social boycott of Dalit research scholars, and what action, which in consequence has led to the suicide of Rohit Vemula. And when he says wage a war against me, not against my Dalit brothers, but at the same time his own ministers are waging a war against the Dalits in this country, then what answer does he have to this entire nation? And still today, Apparao Pudle is sitting in the position of Vice Chancellor, who has been supported by his own colleague in the cabinet.
So you're saying these are words, these are just words, according to you, these are just words, but words are also important, Prashant, because you know, we often criticize the Prime Minister for not speaking out on issues like these, and when he does, then also he's criticized for falling short of somebody's expectations. He's not going to be able to please everyone. Don't you think that credit has to be given that he has made a very strong appeal?
No, I think on January 22nd also, when Rohit Vemula passed away, that too on January 17th when Rohit Vemula passed away, he made a speech on January 22nd where he called Rohit as the son of the soil, whereas भारत माँ धरती की एक लाल खोया है बोल के he was telling, but at the same time Radhika Vemula, mother of Rohit Vemula, continues her fight from 6 months on, but yet no justice is being delivered. So when words do not translate into actions, what is the use of those words itself is what we question. And in the similar manner, even now also when he...
Okay, I'll take what you said to Sambit Patra of the BJP, that, you know, Prashant is saying, I think what in a sense he's saying is that if the Prime Minister should have spoken, he could have actually spoken 6 months ago when Rohit took his life, and that was the time for him to have reached out. Has it belatedly occurred to the BJP about how badly this is politically backfiring on the party ahead of UP and Gujarat polls?
That's the main issue we do not want to do, in the sense we do not want to politicize this whole issue, and we should all refrain from doing the same. But when you say that the Prime Minister did not speak during Rohit Vemula's case, that's wrong. In fact, right now, Prashant, I was hearing him and he said that the Prime Minister spoke during Rohit's suicide as well. And as far as this statement of the Prime Minister is concerned, which was made on 2 consecutive days, it was concerning the Una incident and the subsequent things that happened thereafter. So naturally, those 2 issues should be diverged and seen as to how the Prime Minister has rightly said that there are some people who had taken up the dawn of the mantle of anti-socialism and they're threatening Dalits, and no one can dare to do that. And he has called upon the states, various states of the country, that since law and order is your forte, please take law and order into place and see to it that such kind of people who are trying to raise a fight against the Dalits are placed behind the bars and they are punished. So, in fact, I would say that there is a situation right now in Indian polity where there is a conspiracy of the sort by certain section in the opposition opposition to politicize everything. Let me just give two quick examples over here. As far as Rohit Vemula case is concerned, Mr. Prashant is absolutely right. The Prime Minister said that wo Bharat Mata ke lal hai. But remember, it is the same college where 9 other Dalit students during the UPA tenure had committed suicide. No one was talking about it. Hanumantappa had written similar letters that we are discussing about union ministers from our government having done so. Mr. Hanumantappa agreed to the fact. In the suicide note itself, Mr. Rohit Vemula did not mention the name of anyone from BJP, but despite that, we all try to politicize the issue. In the Una case also, let me go back
Rohit
to
had also
2002
written a
in
letter to the
Jhajjar.
Vice Chancellor in December before he died saying, some about the kind of difficulties and issues that people like him and other Dalits were facing. So I don't want to go into that history. My point is, Sachin Pilot, the criticism is that the Prime Minister doesn't speak. Now he has, and he's spoken not once but actually in a series of 3 different speeches. He's made some pretty strong points both on the Gaurakshaks as well as on the attacks against Dalits. Isn't that something the opposition should step back and say, okay, he's made that statement, now let's wait and see how this plays out in various states? Sachin.
Yes, I think if the Prime Minister has to communicate to the Chief Ministers about a certain issue, he perhaps doesn't need to make a public speech about it. And what he said, I think, has been welcomed by some quarters. But to my mind, what he said 2 days consecutively came a bit late. It became, in fact, politically unhandleable, the situation. And that's why I think he said what he said. He realized that common person in India, the civil society, was up in arms against this huge cow vigilante that has taken over our highways and our roadsides, and they were creating a chaos. But the question is that this discussion on cow, beef, politics, slaughter, vigilante, all these things were never discussed in our discourse 2 years ago. What has certainly happened that this has become from chai pe charcha to gai pe charcha. Now we're talking about so much about beef politics and cow banning and cow slaughtering and so on and so forth. And the actual fact of the matter is that in the last 2 years, the beef exports in India has actually increased. So what the Prime Minister is saying today about controlling such rowdy elements, I think is a requirement of his time, of the politics of what's going to happen in Gujarat, in Punjab and UP. So perhaps he just could not stand back anymore. I wish he had spoken about this about a year ago. We perhaps wouldn't have seen so many deaths and atrocities towards the Dalits all over India.
Well, there's a very important statement, Rakesh Sinha, that the RSS has made today backing the Prime Minister on this, saying that the attacks on the Dalits have been inhuman. That state governments need to crack down on those promoting discord. But you have other groups of the Sangh Parivar, the VHP for instance in Gujarat, and other Gaurakshak groups in other states that have strongly hit out at what the Prime Minister has said. The VHP says he will pay the price for this in the 2019 general election. Is the Sangh Parivar itself divided on this, Mr. Sinha?
There is no division in Sangh Parivar as far as Dalit question is concerned. I am giving the example of Una. When the incident took place, RSS leadership visited Una, and on 3rd August, there was a huge conference in Una. Our effort is holistic effort. Those who are attacking on Dalits, they are the enemies of humanity, they are enemies of Hindutva, they are enemy of the country. We are very categorically clear, and the Prime Minister expressed the same thing. RSS has not been doing only conferences and political tourism. RSS has been doing a groundwork for the integration of Dalits. I am giving one example. Earlier also I have given this example that in Vidya Bharati school, there are 3,43,000 Dalit students and 11,043 teachers. These are all the efforts RSS has been doing on the ground. Second very important thing, we have seen the emergence of neo-reactionaries in India. The pseudo-secularist intellectuals are becoming neo-reactionaries. They are dictating Prime Minister when to speak, what to speak, how to form the cabinet. This is really degradation of the parliamentary form of government. And RSS is backing Prime Minister, or Prime Minister is giving a statement. RSS and Prime Minister both are committed to the Dalit upliftment.
No, but what about the
atrocities on Dalits are realities.
On that the VHP has said it's an insult to cow protectors, and that the party will pay for it in the Lok Sabha elections in 2019. So there's clearly a very different way that sections of the Sangh Parivar are looking at the Prime Minister's statements.
BHP, as far as I know, BHP has not issued any such a statement. We know that there are certain elements, anti-social elements, who are conspiring. No, there are certain anti-social elements, Nidhi, who are trying to insult the ideology of Hindutva by taking law and order hands. Cow protection is a completely non-violent action and completely an ideological, and it is a cultural action. It is a symbol. It is not merely symbolism. It is substantive. And I am giving a reply to Mr. Sachin Pilot. There was there is no guy per charcha in a few years because there was only charcha on illegal cow slaughterhouses. 30,000 illegal cow slaughterhouses have mushroomed during the Congress regime. You have framed the law. Most of the Congress governments have framed the law for the protection of cows. But they have also encouraged the cow slaughterhouses.
Mr. Sinha,
this is the dualism of the Congress, and this is the dualism of the neo-reactionaries like Prasad and other pseudo-intellectuals.
No, it's gone into fair detail as well. You also have a former VHP leader in Madhya Pradesh saying that the Third World War is going to start over a cow. But let me bring Shekhar Gupta into this. Is it a panic reaction within the BJP now that this has been backfiring one after another and that the Prime Minister really didn't have a choice? He had to say this at this point.
Well, I don't think anybody realized how this will go out of control, because initially, if you see in Haryana, that's where the incidents first started. Then, say, Akhlaq thing happened in UP. Initially, the victims were all Muslims. And in any case, I think BJP presumes that Muslims will not vote for it. So they are seen to be expendable in political calculations. I'm not saying physically expendable, but in political calculations. But once Dalits got hit and this kind of Dalit upsurge took place, then with UP coming up, and don't forget Punjab. Punjab has a higher percentage of Dalit voters than even UP does. And frankly, those voters are at this point very strongly inclined towards Aam Aadmi Party anyway, because in the past they used to vote for Congress. Now everybody is looking for sometimes an alternative. And Aam Aadmi Party sees them as their vote bank. So if this grows, then UP coming up, because there is a Dalit revival taking place in India. There is a new Dalit assertion of the kind that, say, Kashiram led in 1987 and then onwards. I think something new is starting now. There is a questioning of Dalit identity by Dalits themselves in terms of why they should accept it. And I think the conflict that they see with, say, the RSS thinking is that I don't believe that RSS would target the Dalits, but there is a belief in caste hierarchies. And I think among the Dalits, there is an extreme reaction to caste hierarchies. The attack over cows has just become a spark. 1857 started over.
So what did you think of the PM's statements then?
Well, I think it's a statement which was a good statement. It's a sound statement. It's come a bit late. I would have preferred if he said, you shall not attack any fellow Indians, any Indian brothers of mine over cow protection. All right, he only said Dalits. He left the Muslims and minorities out. But I think this statement should have come much earlier, and this has to be backed up.
That's interesting.
Frankly, if this had not happened,
is that the message that should have come from the PM, that don't?
Nidhi, I need 10 seconds.
Anandiben Patel would not have lost her job.
Can I come in?
Yeah, Sambit. Go ahead. Should the PM have said no one should be attacked for what they eat? Sambit.
See, as far as the issue is concerned, as far as PM's speech is concerned, it was addressed to the Una incident and the fallouts thereafter. There were context to it in the town hall, and that's the reason as to why he was speaking in context. And as far as other big issues are concerned, the Prime Minister has always spoken appropriately at an appropriate time. He should not speak before the appropriate time, in the sense he's a Prime Minister, he's not just ordinary
leader. What is the appropriate
He should
time?
naturally collect all the information. An appropriate time is only after collecting all the information and delving into the detail. Only the Prime Minister of any democratic country should speak, which he has been doing from time to time. But I have a few very important points. Right now, Sachin Pilot rightly mentioned that since 2 years or 2.5 years, there has been much talk about atrocities against the Dalits. He was absolutely right. Much talk about. It does not mean that atrocities against Dalits were not taking place prior to it. I was just about to cite the example of 2002, Jhajjar, where while skinning the carcasses of the cattle, 5 Dalits were caught and they were burnt alive on the streets of Jhajjar. Burnt alive, 5 Dalits. But no one talked then also, and no one sees that it was a Congress government in Haryana, and no one blamed Congress. Secondly, remember, even in the present time, selective discussions are being held. We have news of how a Dalit was killed in Kanpur police station. We have news as to how Dalits were urinated upon in Bihar. We have news that 125 Dalit houses were gutted in Bihar. But that does not become become a big issue. So there is an effort by the opposition to polarize the political opportunity in India. And let me also rhyme a few words over here, since my friend Sachin Pilot was rhyming Gai Pe Charcha and Chai Pe Charcha. It is not Dalit, it is Dal Hit. Dal meaning group, Hit meaning profit. So it's a very sorry state of affair, and I would say the INB minister rightly pointed out in an article recently in Indian Express that those who are trying to politicize these social evils are actually doing great deal of harm to the Dalit community itself.
If that's the
They're
case,
not,
why did you have huge Dalit protests in Gujarat and in Ahmedabad only days ago? Are you saying that those were all a political conspiracy? The Dalits have announced a march on the 15th of August. Dalit groups in Gujarat, they're going to gather in Una. I mean, that's a very genuine protest that has happened in Gujarat. That's not been created by the press.
Let me answer that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not criticizing any protest. This is a democratic country, and right now Shekhar was right in saying that there is a new assertion that Dalits want their right. So naturally, after 65 or 70 years, if there is a new assertion, that means that there is a liberal government. They were not asserting for 70 years, and today, under the leadership of Mr. Narendra Modi, they want to assert, meaning two things. It's not that in 2.5 years, Narendra Modi came and started the caste hierarchy in India. Definitely no. The atrocities against Dalits extended right from the civilization of the creation of caste system. So that was since time indefinite, or 1,000 years ago, let me say. But today, if there is a new assertion after Ambedkar, that only means that there is a government which would hear, there is a government which does not suppress, which allows the voices to be heard.